who will join us today, who will give their presentation for us, followed by a question and answer session. Now, the event today will be recorded as you see above. If you do not wish to have either your image or your voice used for the recording, please disconnect your mic or your camera at this time. If you wish to relay your questions during the question and answer session, you can do so in the chat and one of the moderators will present those for you. So again, I'm very pleased to be able to introduce you for today's library science talk. We have with us today Martin Kalfatovic, the Managing Director of International Image Interoperability Framework Consortium, the IIIF-C, who will be speaking to us on the topic of technology, community, and consortium, the International Image Interoperability Framework. So thank you very much for joining us, Martin, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Catherine and Sarah, for the invitation today. And now I will attempt to share my screen. I hope everyone can see the title screen. Very good. Well, thank you again for my invitation to give the library science talk today. And I'll just jump right in with a map here of Geneva from 1777. I couldn't be there in person today, but I thought I would show you some of the things we can do with IIIF. So here again, we have a map from 1777 of the Geneva area. The CERN offices are, of course, over in those fields to the screen left. But again, you can sort of see how one of the things we can do with IIIF in terms of geographic things is sharing maps, and I'll go in a little more detail about that. Introducing you to the IIIF Consortium staff. As noted, I'm Martin Kalfatovic. I'm the Managing Director. Our Communications and Community Coordinator is Caitlin Perry. She's based in the New York City area. And then Glenn Robeson, our Technical Coordinator, is based in Aberystwyth, Wales. There's just the three of us in terms of staff, but we have a large number of participants around the world that I'll also come to. So thinking back in time, the World Wide Web and the internet used to look like this. I don't know how many people remember this is what things look like. It was static, it was still, it was kind of pixelated, and it was 640 by 480 in terms of pixels. But over time, people began to wonder what kinds of new things could be done with the internet, what kinds of things could be delivered on the web, how could we deliver content more robustly? And this was one of the instigations behind the formation of the IIIF standard. So here we have an example of a multispectral image where we can then do curtain slides to see the different portions of that. And this is sort of more robust thing that we would like to do. So out of this need grew the International Image Interoperability Framework, IIIF for short. And in 2011 was the beginning of the thinking about the standard. Then in 2012, the actual first API was delivered, done by a group of people that gathered at Oxford University to decide how this might work. So again, the International Image Interoperability Framework is global, mutually usable, image-based, and I'll come back a little bit more about that. And then again, it's a framework of API, software, content, and community. But over these last number of years, the I has really become I+, as it's become a method to deliver all types of digital content, whether that's audiovisual, 3D, etc. So the image is really, the I is no longer just image. So again, the IIIF vision was to create a global framework by which digital resources from any participating institution, and in this case, participating means implementator of the actual standard, via any compatible server for display, interaction, or annotation in any application. And again, that can all be delivered to any user via the web. So what is exactly as IIIF. Again, it's a standard that amplifies digital content delivery by minimizing bespoke delivery systems, but it's also flexible enough. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it's actually something that can be extended and advanced. It's also a model for presenting and annotating content, such as images, audio, visual files, etc. And there's lots of other things you can do, which I'll show some of those as we move forward. But also importantly, IIIF is a vibrant global community of practice that provides peer-to-peer discussions, and it also provides a leadership space that doesn't commit an organization to bleeding edge development. So exactly what again is IIIF? So looking back in time again, when early days, we had local systems for images and metadata in various institutions, and they were all siloed. They didn't communicate, they were expensive, they were user unfriendly. So again, this led to the vision of IIIF, where we would actually then take those local systems, provide a uniform packaging in JSON code, which in IIIF parlance is the manifest. And if you spend any time with IIIF, you'll hear the word manifest a lot. And in essence, that is the JSON package that will help deliver that through the IIIF APIs. And then again, on top of those manifests, you can build all types of tools, websites, and different services. So what can you do with IIIF? Again, this was one of the original use cases. This is a tax map from Japan. And the size of this map is about 3 meters by 2 meters. And you can see the type of detail you can get with a high resolution image of this and zoom around. Again, a map this size is hard to look at physically because it's just so large. But again, IIIF digital imaging allows you to do all types of manipulation of this. And again, this map is from Stanford University, and the person standing there is the person who did the original digitization of it. So you can see again how functional it is to be able to do a lot of different zooming on an image that size. The other thing you can do is share and cite regions of an image. So again, here we have an example of an image, and what we can do is actually select portions of that, and then we can share those with fellow researchers. We can cite those images, those portions of an image, and it enables you to do transmission of regions of interest without having to actually transmit the entire image. Again, one of the key use cases for IIIF is comparing images. These are some tomography images from the Wellcome Library in London. And again, here we can take those two different images, set them side by side, use one of the multiple viewers of IIIF, and compare regions within that particular image. Again, as I showed you earlier, the multispectral imaging is a very important use case within the museum community who implement IIIF, and there's lots of different ways you can move across the different portions of a image. You're also able to use IIIF to search within the text, and this is a key component from a lot of implementers that use it for newspaper collections. And then there's all types of things you can do with maps. One of my personal interests is maps, and I'm very keen on how the different types of things you can do with maps and IIIF. And this one is a map of the Baltic area, and sort of moving around some of the different regions within the Baltic. One of the problems with IIIF, though, is that it's difficult to find resources. So that if you're just using your own local resources with IIIF, it's very easy. But if you're just a user somewhere around the world and want to be using IIIF to do some of these image comparisons, et cetera, you need to be able to find those images or that content. So one of the tools that's been developed is something called Detectif. Detectif is a browser plugin for Firefox and Chrome. You can install this, and then if you're on a page wherever on the internet, the Detectif will actually then note that there is a IIIF resource on that page, and then you can either copy the URL for that manifest to put it into a viewer to look at in your own way, or open it in one of a couple of different viewers, the UV, which is the universal viewer, or Mirador. So this is a nice little way to find IIIF things without having to delve deep inside the code if the institution hasn't already put a IIIF link on it. You can also create quick little exhibitions. This is something I did just in a couple minutes for a recent trip to the Balkans. And again, here we just have sort of threw in some maps of the Balkan area from, I think this was the 19th century, 18th century. And you can just create this quick little exhibition to move around those areas. You can also be more advanced, and here's an example of a more complex exhibition around Dante and Petrarch and Boccaccio that actually then takes a number of different pieces of content from different areas and makes an exhibition around those. Another one of the initial use cases for IIIF was reuniting separated objects. So this is an example from a French manuscript where the illuminations had been cut out and placed in one repository on one side of Paris, and the textual images were remaining in a different repository. Of course, neither institution wanted to give up their physical ownership of the pieces, but through IIIF, you're able to reunite those separated illuminations from the text and bring them back together again. There's also a lot of uses within the scientific community for IIIF. This is an example of an herbarium specimen from the Smithsonian that is from the Baltic region. And within this, we have a image of an herbarium specimen, and then we can use IIIF to annotate different portions of that image. So again, we can note the roots, the fruits, and then again, the label from where it came. So again, in terms of a education environment, an instructor can use this within a lesson to provide a guided explanation of digital content. A number of institutions also use IIIF-enabled resources for crowdsourcing activities. This is an example from the National Library of Wales, where they've placed some of their archival collections online. And again, IIIF then enables that to put that into a crowdsourcing platform, and then people can annotate and different portions of that image. The latest advance in IIIF is implementing a 3D standard. This is currently almost ready for public release. You can actually use 3D content right now within IIIF, but we are revamping the API to version 4, which will be fully released by June of this year. So here we have an example of a 3D scan of a whale skull skeleton from the Smithsonian again, and using the Smithsonian Voyager IIIF-enabled 3D viewer. We can then take that image, rotate it, move it around, annotate portions of it, and get a full experience for all types of research uses. So again, when thinking about IIIF in general, that's where you're moving forward. One of the things I think about are the types of things that drive us forward, provide new resources, et cetera. So again, in terms of the things that provide forward momentum, we have the strong product, a dedicated community, and an artificial intelligence component. But some of the things holding back the development of IIIF include time and financial resources, financial and personal resources of different institutions. Again, things that help light our way are the expanding community, and again, the service to the research and cultural heritage community. But some of the things that we might run into, again, are austerity, artificial intelligence, again, and authoritarianism. So these are sort of the different elements that all comprise where we're moving forward with development of the IIIF standard. One of the things I like to think about in a community-driven project, an open source project like IIIF, is how we can actually take participation of the larger community. And there's a Kathleen Fitzpatrick is an interesting thinker within the cultural heritage sector, and she has the concept she uses of generous thinking, where we all within our community need to listen to each other in order to do teaching, and have a collective knowledge and find new ways of working together in public. So as part of this, we are developing a revamping of the IIIF Consortium's strategic plan around advocacy and leadership, technical development, scholarship and community development, and membership value. For advocacy and leadership, the IIIF Consortium is going to continue to be a global leader in advocating for the interoperability of image, audiovisual, and 3D digital content for cultural heritage research and beyond. Our technical development will continue to facilitate increasing the number of interoperable systems. And the IIIF Consortium will systematically invest in lowering the barriers to connecting community members. We'll also help provide those members that provide the financial support for IIIF with a model that will provide an equitable structure for increasing the number and value of that membership. So looking forward, I want to sort of highlight that the I in IIIF is not just about images, but does include 3D and as well as audiovisual. And the astronaut figure is sort of the avatar for our 3D development group, and that's been used sort of as the model within that. Also, I want to highlight going forward the interoperability of IIIF. Right now, the standard provides a lot of ways to do different interoperability with digital content, but actually increasing the way that institutions or users will bring together content and where does that derived content live and how is it accessed is an important thing that we need to promote more vigorously. Also, as I mentioned with the discussion of detective, it's very difficult still to find IIIF content unless you already know where it is. So again, how can we make IIIF content more transparently discoverable? And again, are there ways that we can use persistent identifiers to help identify where that content is? Again, it's also a key thing that'll happen in the next few months, which is rolling out version 4 of the API. Also, it's important to provide accessibility for content. IIIF is neutral in terms of a content, but we do want to make sure that there's possibilities for providers of IIIF-enabled content to meet the different types of accessibility requirements for that digital content. Also, AI, as I've mentioned a couple of times, is an inescapable phrase within our community. And here we have a ChatGPT explanation of what IIIF is in French. I have been actually using this example many times, and I have ChatGPT translated into different languages from the other language. So this is about 5 generations removed from the original one through various languages. So I didn't look at how closely that is in French, but it's probably not very accurate. And then also moving within that discoverability concept is content commons. And this is a new idea that's come up within the IIIF community within the last couple months. How can we create a content commons to provide, again, that access to content? And one of the things we're working on is again using maps and our partner, the All Maps Consortium, based in the Netherlands, which provides findability for maps within a IIIF content. And again, sort of how can we standardize that and again, provide different types of areas, for instance, medieval manuscripts, music, newspapers, etc., with a discoverability commons. So talking a little bit now more about the consortium itself, the consortium develops the shared APIs, implements them in software, and exposes them as interoperable content. These are just some of the implementers that we know about from IIIF. Again, as an open standard, any institution can implement IIIF without letting us know. So again, we don't know all of the implementations that may be out there around the world, but these are some of the known ones. When the IIIF staff presented in Canberra, Australia last year, we organized a meeting for the New Zealand, Australia community, and we discovered a number of implementations in that area that we didn't know about. So again, if anyone knows about an implementation of IIIF, let us know and we can put a dot on the map. We also as a consortium have partners, and this is again how the IIIF consortium is funded. So we have 72 global partners, and we have two levels of partnership, a full membership and an associate level partnership. The blue dots are the full members, and the red dots are the associate members. And we have just recently revamped our membership tiers to actually lower the fees to increase partnerships and also included a low and middle income category for regions that fall within that band as defined by the World Bank. As you can see, we again have no current partnerships within most of the global South. So the newest IIIF members are actually just down the road from you in Geneva at the University of Bern and the University Library in Vienna. And I can also say that we will be announcing a couple of more members shortly. Yes, I can tell them now. So it's the Technical University of Delft in the Netherlands and also the University of Minnesota in the United States, which will be announced shortly. Again, those members of the consortium come from a international group of museums and galleries, content aggregators such as Ithaca, Consortium Europeana, Internet Archive, universities and research institutions, and state and national libraries and archives. And who exactly is the IIIF community? It's over 3,000 active users of our Slack channel and participants within our communities. We have a number of different communities, which I'll come back to in a second. Technical specifications groups that help to define the standards. And then the heart of IIIF is the editorial committee, which are a group of people who actually write the standard and maintain that key part of the standard. We do have a community calendar on our IIIF website, which provides information about when those community calls occur. And we definitely encourage anyone to just jump in on anything that might seem of interest within a group, or our monthly community call, which is sort of a more general topic of interest. These are those community groups, 3D, AV, educators, etc. And these are usually focused and will have a specific presentation on those topics. If you're new to IIIF, there's a couple of things we can provide you in addition to all of our trainings, etc., and meetings are recorded on YouTube, so you can find those on our YouTube channel. We also provide quarterly trainings, which are timed to be appropriate for different time zones, and that's a 5-day self-organized or self-motivated training session that you can do with our instructor, Glenn Robeson, and then do homework assignments on your own. We also have a number of resources that you can download for different areas, archives, museums, and CIOs. And then we also do a free annual online meeting, which would just missed that. That was back in January 27, 29. Again, this is time zone friendly. And again, this has multiple presentations on IIIF, lightning talks, and then a number of workshops that are provided. Again, these are free of charge for anyone to attend. We also do have an in-person conference. Our conference in 2025 was at the University of Leeds in the United Kingdom, and this is our reception in the beautiful Tile Hall at the university. And then this year, we'll be having the conference in just a few months. It'll be in the Netherlands writ large in 3 different locations in Amsterdam, Leiden, and The Hague. We'll have a showcase will be in Amsterdam. And again, that is free to attend. And that will this year be highlighting different implementations of IIIF within the Dutch community. The conference, which will be 2 days, is held in Leiden. And then we'll have workshops, birds of a feather, and other types of gatherings in The Hague. So if anyone can join us in the Netherlands, I'd be happy to welcome you there. So again, there's multiple ways to get involved with IIIF. You can join one of the calls, you can subscribe to our newsletter, and then our active Slack channel is the best way to actually engage with IIIF because there are lots of people that will help you with IIIF and answer any questions you might have. You'll learn all kinds of new implementations, etc. And I should also add on here our GitHub repository where we have a number of different content around what we call the awesome list of IIIF tools, tricks, etc. So again, thank you very much for taking the time today, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or follow up with anything.
Thank you very much, Martin. So if anybody wants to ask your questions, please raise your hand. Well, if you want to use to raise them yourselves, otherwise, please put them into the chat, and one of the moderators will raise the question for you. One question I've already received is about the standard. Specifically, where is it found? Is it freely available?
Yes, the standard is freely available. You can find more information on the website, which provides all the documentation of that. I've also noticed that Glenn Robeson, our technical coordinator, has joined us, and I don't want to put Glenn on the spot, but if Glenn, you could turn on your mic and provide any other information about that'd be great.
Yeah, so the spec is freely available. So the specification kind of tells you how to implement the specification. Then we have lots of free tools that Martin mentioned, the awesome list, and there's lots of open source image servers and ways to generate a manifest, and you can see them all from the awesome list.
I'll also just note that there are a number of commercial providers around the world that will help with implementations of IIIF. So there's ways where you can contract with different organizations, Digerati, COGAP, etc., that will help to do like a large scale implementation of IIIF or to get your organization underway.
Relating to standards, there's also a question now that's just come up. Is the standard something that could potentially replace the PNG or the JPEG formats?
Short answer is no. It's not a digital content standard in the way that JPEG or PNG is, but it's a delivery mechanism of digital content. So again, the IIIF APIs enable you to refactor the digital content, whether it's an image format like JPEG or PNG or an audiovisual format or a 3D format for a more effective delivery. And I'll just use annotation as a short word of that digital content.
We also have a question relating to persistent identifiers. Specifically, what kind of persistent identifier schemas does IIIF support?
IIIF is agnostic in terms of the types of persistent identifiers that you can implement. So again, there's nothing that is prescribed within the IIIF framework for identifiers, and different institutions will include the different types of identifiers as they see fit. The British Library, for instance, is a implementer of the ARC persistent identifier option. So there's multiple ways you can do that. And just how they're exposed is sort of up to the institution.
Another question that's been put into the chat is how can people know where they can access the content? You showed the maps, but how do people know where they can access this?
Again, that is one of the tricky parts of IIIF. If the implementer of IIIF is a good community member, there will often be a IIIF logo clearly visible on the resource. And then that will provide you methods of accessing either the manifest itself or launch it directly in a IIIF viewer or player. But again, many organizations haven't got around to that. So again, that's where something like the detective is useful, where if you're just browsing a site, it'll quickly help you locate the manifest. And then something like All Maps serves as an aggregator of IIIF enabled content. again, that's something that does exist primarily at this point just for maps. So again, it remains tricky. Some locations, repositories such as the Internet Archive, for instance, does not currently have a clearly available IIIF link. But again, if you know the sort of secret way to truncate the URL and get the identifier and get into the appropriate link, you can do that. Right now, it can be difficult to find that manifest.
So to confirm, it's at this time, it's up to the participants who are including their own
Mhm.
content to somehow signal on their site or within their content where to find these manifests.
Right. And sometimes, again, something might look like IIIF, but it might be a bespoke thing. So sometimes you have to dig deeply into the actual web resource to see if there is indeed a IIIF manifest behind that content.
And tying to this, um, even with Detectif, it only pulls things that qualify with this particular standard, which means that even if you find content from another repository, you can't
Mhm.
use a IIIF tool to manipulate that unless the object has been made available for that purpose.
Correct. So the resource has to be available through a IIIF enabled server, of which there are many, and many digital asset management systems are already IIIF enabled. Some large popular ones such as Content DM are all IIIF, can be IIIF enabled. And we are working with the DAMS community to sort of inventory and have those providers promote their repositories. In some cases, we've found an institution might be using a IIIF enabled repository and not even know that it's IIIF possible to enable that.
A question from someone regarding participation. So, the
Mhm,
participation is generally done at the institutional level,
mhm,
particularly with these new institutions you have seen
mhm,
join.
mhm,
Um, has this been something where you have sought them out as
mhm,
participants, or they have looked
mhm,
at their own resources? And how does that connection get made for them to
mhm,
take
mhm,
advantage of this?
mhm. There are two ways to participate, and one is just at an interested party within an institution. So again, as I mentioned, there's no um, barrier of entry to IIIF. So an institution can just have an enabled repository and start developing IIIF implementations without letting anyone know. So again, that's very simple to do without actually having any content or contact with the IIIF consortium itself. So that's again where we see lots of these implementations where people have just used the available resources on GitHub, et cetera, to do that. But in terms of the consortial support, it's a little bit of both ways. Either we are working with institutions that have developed IIIF implementations to encourage them to become consortium partners. And then sometimes the partner will just sort of seek IIIF out to get some of those additional benefits that we provide as a consortium in terms of some of the free trainings, the discounted trainings, et cetera. So it sort of works both ways in terms of partnership development.
Another question we have is, can you export IIIF metadata in XML
Mhm.
format?
Hmm. That's a good question. I wonder if Glenn would be able to answer that one.
Not really. So the IIIF standard's a JSON format rather than an XML format, and I don't think I've seen many people convert it to XML. Quite often, the source metadata is in XML, so many libraries use like mods or mark XML or something, and then they convert that into the manifest. And there are ways to link back to the source XML, but I haven't seen a manifest converted to XML.
Thank you. I'm checking through the chat to see if there are any more
Mhm.
questions popping up here. Please, again, if any participants wish to ask their questions themselves, please feel free. Otherwise, you can put your questions in the chat and one of the moderators will ask them. I appreciated the way you did the chart to indicate kind of what could otherwise be a SWOT analysis of a kind. When you have given presentations in the past, what is if you have one or two takeaways for people who are looking at either at an individual or an institutional level, taking advantage of participation, what would be, you've said there's no barrier to entry, the trainings are available. Is there one message that you wish that they would hear to be able to either take back to their institutions to motivate them? Because I know that some of us may not be the people who could move these things forward on our own. What message can we take back with us for this, other than our enthusiasm, obviously?
I think the key thing to take away to take back to your own institution, if you're interested in IIIF, again, is to think about use cases within your own environment. So, for instance, are you interested in providing a deeper, richer access to your audiovisual resources? Are there ways where you can use annotations and transcriptions within your content that will make them more available? So I like to work backwards from what you want to do to how IIIF can enable you to do that. Some of the things around the 3D, again, are important as we think in the research and cultural heritage sector in terms of open source and availability of 3D models. And again, having that ability to just sort of out of the box use a existing IIIF viewer enables you to do a lot of things. And then again, as you get more complex, you can build richer resources. I do like to highlight the National Gallery in London, which has done an amazing IIIF implementation with a virtual gallery for their new recently opened wing. And you can do all kinds of interesting things that provide all of the rich resources of gallery tours, annotations, etc. And again, all of that becomes open sourced in terms of the development, and it doesn't have the bespoke type of locking an institution into a very specific commercial product.
Perfect. Well, thank you very, very much, Martin. Thank you also for the contribution from Glenn. It's been a pleasure to hear from you. We will be able to share the recording of the presentation. Oh, we have one more question, excuse me. I don't know if this person wishes to raise the question on their own. Sorry, let me check. Sorry, apparently it is in the chat. Yes. Do you have any use cases for architectural 3D plans?
No plans in specific, but again, a architectural 2D plan basically fits within the maps category. So actually all the types of things you can do with a traditional map, such as I showed at the beginning, can be done with an architectural plan. And then again, a 3D model would fit within the 3D standards of IIIF. And again, you can mix and match some of those things. So I could see how you could actually, I don't have an actual use case. I don't know if Glenn might know of anything, but I could see how you could bring together a plan as well as a 3D architectural model within a IIIF environment.
Yeah, there's a couple actually examples of architecture projects. So there's one we're working with in Switzerland, working with somebody who's running an architecture course, and she's worked with the students to 3D scan different buildings and worked with them to kind of create IIIF manifests of that content. And then there's also Delft University. They've got an architectural course there. And they developed like an exhibition viewer, so it kind of takes you through the points of the architecture using IIIF images to kind of tell the story.
Thank you very much, both Glenn and Martin. We've had an immense amount of interest, certainly, in the takeaways and bringing it back. So I will remind everyone that this video is being recorded and will be available from the A-List YouTube channel as soon as possible afterwards. Also, Martin is going to make the slides available if people want to be able to review that. And as you may recall, that last slide does include a number of different places to to go for more information in terms of follow-up. So mindful of the time and the calm in the chat and the questions, I would like to again thank both our speakers and our participants for joining us today. Thank you for your enthusiasm and your interest. Our next Library Science Talk will be taking place in April, and information will be available on that soon. So again, thank you very much for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.